Hi, Cozy Community. Welcome back to a couple more chapters of A History of Murder. We're still reading paper today because my Kindle is still on the fritz. Don't ask me why, but paperback books are kind of better anyway, I think. All right, so we're going to start today with chapter 39. When we finished up last time, the girls, those being Grandma Lily and Chloe, had just got all fancy at Bree's Beauty Salon, and they were getting ready to get inside to the Opera House where happy hour is taking place. So we'll start today with chapter 39, Dark Cloud. Townspeople and tourists alike were streaming into the Opera House. Mariah had hung twinkle lights and vintage red, white, and blue half-moon banners above each window. Most partygoers were wearing black or other dark colors. I was the only woman in emerald green, which made me feel conspicuous. Inside, more strings of white lights hung from the center chandelier and stretched to the walls, creating a ceiling of stars. It smelled like fresh flowers, and I noticed large bouquets in huge standing vases flanking every door. Opera House ushers stood to greet guests and offer assistance if needed. Tonight was a far cry from the annual Founders' Day barn dance, where people sat on hay bales and wore their best jeans and boots. Grandma Lily glanced at me, looking annoyed. "What's wrong, dear? You're fidgety." "It's these shoes. I feel like I'm 10 feet tall." "Oh, stop it. You look great." I was surprised to see Bree come in, party ready, right after us. She had smoothed her shoulder-length, bright blonde hair into a high puff and curled tiny tendrils around her face. The hairstyle went perfectly with her baby pink frilly dress and mint green pumps. At least I wasn't the only one wearing color tonight. I went to greet her. "Where's Anthony?" "He called to say he got tied up at work. He'll be late. It's fine." She tried to smile, but she looked disappointed. Grandma Lily motioned for us to join her. "Come on, girls. They're putting out the food. Let's go." We followed Grandma Lily as she wound her way through the increasing crowd, stopping briefly to say hello to this person and that. It was fun to see these familiar faces dressed in such finery. There was Karen Little in a black sequined frock that had a 1920s flair, and Dr. Dunning made it, after all, accompanied by his tall, thin sister, Anna. Everyone looked to be having a wonderful time. Bree took my hand and whispered, "I cannot wait for Blake to lay eyes on you." She winked. Did she actually believe I was hoping to win him back? Before I had the chance to explain, we arrived at a long buffet table along the wall. It was filled with fancy finger foods. Jeannie and one of her employees stood behind the table, replenishing and serving the enormous spread. I made a point to avoid eye contact with Jeannie, unsure if she knew that I had taken the diary back yet or not. Grandma Lily and I took plates and began choosing goodies to try. I rolled my eyes when Grandma tossed some salt over her shoulder for luck. Bree didn't take a plate. "Not hungry?" I said, trying a stuffed mushroom. It tasted so delicious I had to pause for a moment of silence. Bree shook her head so quickly she almost vibrated. Her ponytail jiggled back and forth like a pom-pom. "Too nervous. The whites." I had to smile. The first time I met Bree, I never thought I'd come to like her, let alone truly care about her. But here we were. When was the last time I had someone like her in my life? Since Christy, that's when. After she died and Blake betrayed me, I set firm boundaries. I didn't get close to anyone because I couldn't face the possibility of losing them. So except for Grandma Lily, I really didn't have anyone. Maybe my growing friendship with Bree was a sign that I was thawing out. I patted Bree's hand resting in the crook of my arm. "Trust me, it's going to be fine. How can they not love you?" I scanned the room for Mariah or her brother. I didn't spot either of them so far. Come to think of it, I didn't see any of my suspects either. "Oh, there's Anthony," Bree said. She began to wave her arm to get his attention. He was standing at the front of the room, near the stage, where a small acoustic ensemble was playing soft music. Strange. How had he crossed the room without either of us seeing him? My analysis of Anthony's mysterious route was preempted when I realized who he was standing with. Blake. The White brothers caught sight of us at the same time. Blake did a double take, and then his eyes grew wide. His lips parted. Bree whispered to me through a smile, like ventriloquists do, "Look at Blake. He's enchanted." The music swelled as the two men came our way. Relief filled me when another partygoer interrupted Blake. Maybe I could avoid him all night this way. What with his mayoral campaigning in full swing? Anthony cut through the dance floor, dodging dancers, to join Bree. She stood on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. "You look great," he said to her. As a thank you, Bree did one of her signature twirls. I moved backwards, as quickly as I could in my fancy shoes, to give her more space, but when I did, I accidentally stepped on someone's foot. "Oh, no, excuse me," I said, while turning to see who I had hurt. To my dismay, it was none other than Blake's mother. On her face was a mixture of pain and shock. She inspected her pedicured toes peeping out from her heels. Her second piggy was a vibrant red. Then she shook her head and held it high. Mrs. White hadn't aged much in 13 years. Maybe there were a few more silver highlights at her temples, a few more fine lines around her eyes. But she was the same lithe, pretty woman I remembered. I looked beside her and saw Mr. White. He was heavier now, and his hair had gone completely gray. "Bree, your outfit is so interesting." Mrs. White looked pointedly at Bree's shoes and dress. "Are you colorblind, dear?" Bree's smile faded fast. She looked to me for help. Suddenly, I was not at all sorry I had stepped on this woman's toes. In fact, I wanted to do it again. "Hello, Mrs. White," I said, deflecting her icy remark to Bree. Mrs. White pressed her lips together in a taut smile. "Mr. White?" I extended my hand to him for a shake. He took my hand and gave it a limp squeeze. "Blake mentioned you were in town," Mrs. White finally spoke. "Mentioned it? He's hardly talked about anything else all week," guffawed Mr. White. I felt my cheeks get warm. It's too bad about Art McMillan," Mr. White went on. "I imagined it's quite the dark cloud over your visit. Another dark cloud, that is." My insides tightened. Mr. White made a grumbly coughing noise. "I hope you know we don't hold any grudges against you, Chloe. I hope you feel the same. Now that you're grown, I'm sure you can see we were only doing what was best for our boys." The music faded as a song ended. An awkward silence followed. Was that his way of apologizing? I couldn't help but feel slighted all over again. Bree saved me. "Chloe, it looks like your grandma could use our help." She pointed at Grandma Lily, who was across the room carrying a large tray of baked goods. She was struggling to control it while squeezing through groups of chatting guests. "Please excuse us," I said to Mr. and Mrs. White as we hurried to aid my grandma. "Here, let us take that," Bree said when we reached her. "What are you doing anyway?" I asked. "Jeannie needed some help, so I stepped in," Grandma Lily explained. We all worked together to place the large, heavy tray on the table. "That's enough helping for tonight," I told her. "You were the one who said we were here to have some fun." Grandma Lily nodded with a quiet smile. "I suppose I'm a little self-conscious. People must be talking." I hugged her tightly. "I know, Grandma, but tonight's the night we figure out who's to blame and help you start to heal." She hugged me back and nodded in agreement. "Chloe, you're right. These stuffed mushrooms are to die for," Bree said, licking a finger. "I'll get us a few more." She filled another small plate with mushrooms, carrot sticks, and diced cheese. Apparently, the nerves of seeing the Whites had passed. Over my grandma's shoulder, I caught a glimpse of someone I recognized. It was Chief Garner in a black tuxedo. He slowly made it through the crowd, walking towards us, smiling. He looked so good, I thought I might faint. Before I knew it, he was standing right there. "Hello, everyone." "You look handsome, Chief." Grandma hugged his arm. "You clean up nicely yourself, Lil," Garner said. He complimented Bree's formal attire and got a little giggle out of her. Then he turned to me. "And Chloe, I must say—" Garner didn't get a chance to finish his thought because at that very moment, in my nervousness, I popped a stuffed mushroom in my mouth. I tossed it in with such force that it hit the back of my throat, and I began to choke. Bree grabbed my arm and held it over my head. "Does anyone know the Heimlich?" I yanked my arm away, tears beginning to spill over my lids. I coughed twice before a chunk of mushy mushroom landed out on the dance floor with a splat. Several dancers froze and stared at me with looks of disgust. "Sorry about that." I stepped onto the dance floor, nabbed up the gray mess with a napkin, and whispered, "Will you please excuse me for a moment?" to the group. Chief Garner was statue-like, with a look of utter shock on his face. Grandma was also wide-eyed. I grabbed Bree's wrist, and we headed for the ladies' room. On our way, I spotted Mariah and Luke. I was relieved to see them in attendance and thankful that I hadn't died choking on a mushroom before I was able to put all of this to rest. Bree led us into the restroom. A woman was fixing her lipstick and jumped when I gave a final loud cough. She excused herself and looked at us as if we were unruly children. "What were you thinking, putting that whole thing in your mouth at once?" Bree laughed. "It was hilarious, like a comedy act." I dropped the wadded napkin into the trash can. Bree wouldn't understand how awkward I felt with Garner, how this always seemed to happen when I got around him. She was bright and bubbly and extroverted. She didn't understand my introversion. But she had just witnessed firsthand how my interactions with the chief typically went. "I don't know. I get nervous," I told her. Bree was still talking to me, but primping in the mirror. "Well, girl, he was about to tell you how beautiful you look until you spit your food on him." She winked. "Not on him, just near him." We looked at each other, then broke out in laughter. My eyes were tearing again, now from laughing so hard. When we had recovered, Bree helped me fix my eyeliner with a bit of paper towel. She fluffed my hair too. When she thought I was sufficiently fixed up, she began to shoo me out of the room. "Come on, let's go. Don't make your grandma worry." "Wait, I need another minute." I tilted my head toward the stalls. "You go out and tell them I'm fine. I'll be there soon." Bree agreed and flitted out the door. My throat felt a little scratchy, and even though the laughter helped, I was still thoroughly embarrassed. I spent a few minutes in the empty ladies' room, listening. I cupped my ear to the door, but could only make out muffled voices. How could I show my face out there after making such a scene? I felt like a complete fool. Steeling my resolve, I cracked open the bathroom door and looked into the corridor. If I turned left, I'd go down a short hallway and into the ballroom. If I turned right, I'd end up at the infamous side exit for some fresh air. What to do? A swell of laughter came from the dance floor. Were people laughing at me? What the man said was true. No one wants me here. I had to make a getaway. Okay, friends, that was chapter 39. We have only 3 chapters left before we finish A History of Murder. So I hope that you'll join me next time and we'll continue. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.